Hi, everyone. Happy Women's History Month, and thank you so much for joining us today to celebrate International Women's Day. My name is Elizabeth Shackelford, and I am so honored to moderate today's discussion with an amazing panel of women. Today, I'm joined by Soi Smith, DEI Director at JLL, Sarah Gedert, Product and Clinical Manager at Intuitive, and Sarah Kenny, career coach and author of Lead Like a Queen, A Young Woman's Guide to Audacious Living. Thank you all so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
During today's event, we are going to discuss women's empowerment in the workplace and beyond, how to foster empowerment from an early age, and hear personal stories from Sarah, Soi, and Sarah on how they got to where they are today. We will have time for audience questions at the end, so add any questions you may have into the comments, and we'll try to get through all of them at the end. Let's dive in. To start, why don't you tell us about yourself and what you do? Soi, we'll start with you.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Soi Smith. I'm the Director of Business Resource Groups at Jones Lang LaSalle. That just means I lead and support our 9 business resource groups in Canada, Latin America, and the US by providing different processes, strategies for BRGs. But what I'm most proud of is my role as a mom. I have an 8-year-old daughter and almost 7-year-old son, and I love creating memories with them and my husband. We live right outside of New Orleans.
Oh, I love that. Well, welcome, Soi. Sarah Kenny, let's hear from you.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Kenny. I am a best-selling author. I'm a speaker, and I'm a leadership coach who specifically works on helping women and girls unleash their potential for the global good. So I do a lot of leadership coaching, and I'm specifically focused on helping improve what I like to call the women's leadership development pipeline. So starting at a very young age, how do we start to address some of these things in our young girls so that by the time they get to be moms and in their careers, we've already nipped some of the things that really we struggle with as adults. We can start to nip some of that in the bud.
When we first met Sarah, I was like, I gotta talk to you more because I have a daughter and I'm like, I need to know all of these tips and tricks. And then Sarah, welcome. Tell us a bit about you.
Yes, thank you. So Sarah Gedert, I work at Intuitive Surgical. I'm on our customer learning and development team, and we create the clinical content for all of our internal learners. So I have an incredible team of women who I just love working with every day. We work for all of our global internal learners. So we work with our APAC team, our Europe team, our US teams, and also a mom of 2 little ones. So Henry is 5 and Amelia is 2.5. My husband, Jacob, is just a great support. I'm so lucky. He loves to cook. I have great support at home, and I think that's so important. And then we live in the Atlanta area. We have a French bulldog, and yeah, just busy lives.
What's your French bulldog's name?
Oscar.
Oh, I knew everybody has such cute names. I was like, I need to know what the dog's name is too.
Oscar.
Well, thank you. We're so excited again. And then let's talk a little bit about what Intuitive and JLL, what are they doing to celebrate International Women's Day? Soi?
Awesome. We're a global company, so there's a lot going on in our different regions. Our business resource groups, Women's Business Network, is really active. They did some programs yesterday, today, some tomorrow, and they're focusing on leadership and empowerment. And we're also highlighting women at our firm through our social media tiles. So if you look at any LinkedIn or social media posts, you'll see some active participants in highlighting women at our firm.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, me too.
Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So celebrating Women's History Month, we have a couple initiatives going on. Very similarly, on LinkedIn, you'll see some really exciting videos of women just celebrating women. On our Women Intuitive Network, ERG, they are hosting a special event on the 18th where we have a wonderful panel talking about change and how you manage change. So just some wonderful women leaders within our organization. And then our team is also sending out weekly emails just celebrating women in leadership within our organization. So our Women's Intuitive Network Employee Resource Group is handling all of those logistics. And it's just, it's a wonderful month.
I love those. And ERGs are so important, and they're so important and beneficial to the sustainability, productivity of your employees. So it's good to see that that's happening. So what are, some of your personal experiences or reasons that motivated you to, think and kind of foster women's empowerment? Sarah Kenny, we'll start with you.
Yeah. So I always joke that I think I was just like born a feminist, like out of the womb. I don't know what was in my blood. It's my DNA, like literally came out. And it's interesting. I talk about this in my book, just kind of like the themes that I noticed popping up through my life of just always being really drawn to women's issues, women's causes. That led me to do my master's degree in gender studies. And I'll tell you what, when you start looking at the world from that type of gender lens, it just like blows your mind open. And from there, I then, I've had a lot of different career paths, and Elizabeth, I think we're going to talk about this later, but the common theme throughout all of those has been empowering and developing women leaders. And so just a personal passion of mine, but I think there's two really important things. One, when I do the work, I'm like, I know this is working. I'm like, this matters that we're investing this and we're doing this, and the data shows it, right? I spent about 10 years in DC doing a lot of advocacy, a lot of policy. And, you go back again and again to Congress and the, Department of Defense, and they want hard numbers. And you can actually say, when you invest more in women, you see better health outcomes, you see better education outcomes, you see more balanced public policy in politics. And I think based on like where we are today, we have a lot of work to do in terms of investing more in women and seeing those outcomes come to life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Soi?
Yeah, Sarah, you mentioned that, you're doing a lot of work with young girls. And I love that because as I grew up in an environment where it was highly comparative, where I wasn't strong enough, I wasn't tall enough, I wasn't smart enough. And it really affected my self-belief. Right, going into college as a young woman. And it didn't change until I changed my association. And through my sorority, where we're uplifting women, doing things for young girls, college women, professional women, mentorship opportunities. And then I was a part of an association with women entrepreneurs where there's leadership development conferences, books, podcasts, all these things that really helped me shape into who I am today, but I had a late start. And I'm so thankful, right, for people like you, Sarah, who are investing in young women to help them get an early start, because they should know their worth. They should know that they're good enough. And that's what I'm doing with my 8-year-old. And I think one of the questions was like, how do you empower women around you? And it really starts with my 8-year-old daughter. Just investing in her and telling her that she's worthy, she's good enough, and that she's strong. And having her learn these leadership principles now is really going to set her up for success in the future, and hopefully not have these same things that we're going through. But even if, right, even if she's going through some of the same things, she has that confidence to conquer it and the skill sets to conquer it. So that's my story. Is like, I didn't have it as a young child, but I did have it thankfully early in my mid-adult life. And then that's why I'm very passionate about being a girl's girl, right? And really helping other women along in their journey.
Oh, so I love that. I saw someone commented, Susan said, I'm excited to see how we can help straighten each other's crowns. And it reminded me of what you said about being a girl's girl. It's like, we're here to hype each other up, and you have to have people in your corner. And and your self-esteem dips when you're younger. And, it's like, you just don't know how it's nice. It's good to hear that, because I think every young girl could use a little, pep talk, and we as moms can really help instill that. Sarah, what about you?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That resonates so much as far as the just coming into it later in life. I definitely started in sales roles, which were very male dominated, and just figuring out my way through that was definitely challenging. One of the things I think I did early is just like, I don't want to compare myself to other women. I want to figure out, how do I partner with these other women, and like, how do we lift each other up? And I think that's been a theme throughout my entire career, is like, I'm so passionate about just how do we all bring ourselves up together. And one of the things Intuitive just amplifies is empowered women empower women. And that just sits with me. I mean, it starts young with our daughters and getting that message out early. I love that, Sarah. And so I so much so. But also, one of the things that I think is so critical is making sure that you're talking about your achievements. That's one of the biggest areas that I struggle with, is how do I amplify my voice? And I have an incredible team of all women. And how do I encourage them to amplify their voice? Because that's the hardest thing for all of us. So that's the thing I think I would say I'm working on every day, but that's how I continue to work to empower the people on my team, myself. That is still a challenge for myself, but yeah.
Sarah, I love that. I wrote that down. Empowered women empower women. Because I think that was something that's super important, and something that we talk about at the Mom Project every day, is like meeting mom where she is in her journey. And if you feel empowered to do something, you're going to inspire and empower others. Oh, I just love that. So shifting gears a little bit, Sarah K., in your new book, Lead Like a Queen, A Young Woman's Guide to Audacious Living, you help young women find happiness, purpose, and fulfillment early on in life. So important, which we've already talked about. But, what inspired you to write this book?
Yeah, so a few things. And I'm very transparent about this kind of in my own story throughout the book. But, I struggled a lot through my childhood, my teens, and my early 20s with, unfortunately, way too common, but still very, very challenging circumstances. I struggled with disordered eating, bulimia in particular, just talk about chronic self-comparison, had really severe acne, just anxiety, depression, crippling levels of perfectionism, to where literally kind of broke down in my early 20s and was like, this is I didn't talk about that in the book of this was the breaking point where I was like, this isn't not doable anymore. And so, for me, what then I started to notice in my work with girls is I'm like, oh, this is my story. This is everybody's story. The amount that women and girls struggle with body image and comparison and people pleasing and perfectionism. And so what I really realized is coaching isn't accessible to everybody. And I want to touch the lives of as many women and girls as possible. And I'm like, okay, if I'm on repeat, I'm going to put this in, I have it right here. It's short. It's only 97 pages. So you can read it in a weekend. But I think, so one, just being able to share that message and story. Then what I also realized are, both from the data and the work that I do as both an executive coach all the way down to team coaching, is these are the issues that come up again and again and again for women in the workplace when they're not addressed earlier. And so again, I know I said that, before, but for me, I was like, okay, this is a message that I want moms to hear, that I want girls to hear, that I want anyone who's in the leadership development space to hear. And so, yeah, books are one of, obviously, one way to get that message out. So that's the story behind it.
Oh, well, and then, really why, you touched on this a little bit, but really if you had to just tell us, why is it important to start this empowerment at such a young age? And what are those, what are those things that you're seeing? Is if it starts at a young age, what's that follow through like?
Yeah.
And how can that change the trajectory of I'm asking you so many questions. I was just looking, but so many things to ask.
Well, no, I know. And I think please no one feel disheartened, because I'm going to give that preface. Kids understand gender roles by 30 months. Girls start to worry if they're dieting by about fourth grade. They literally are like monitoring their weight by the fourth grade. They are sponges. They absorb everything, whether it's through the messages they're receiving. And again, you can be the most progressive, whatever, insert all the adjectives, household, and like they still see, billboards, and they still see advertisements, and they still watch TV where it's like, oh, mom does the cleaning and dad does and I think, and Soi, you mentioned this earlier, like the most important things I think that moms in particular can be doing is role modeling what they want to see in their daughters, right? And so I tell moms, like moms hire me, I work with their girls, but I'm like, you gotta do the work. And we're going to talk about this later in terms of like what's getting in the way of that, because believe you me, there's a lot getting in the way of that. But really, if you struggle a lot with your body image, that's the first message your daughter picks up. Moms are still the number one influence on their daughter's body image, despite everything we see online and, in the media and news. Similarly, if you struggle with perfectionism, your daughter will likely struggle with perfectionism. So even if you are so I always say, start with you, and the trickle down, it starts in the home. It always starts in the home.
And it's a journey,
It's a journey. It absolutely is.
Mm-hmm. That's really powerful and made me think a lot about what we're doing at home to kind of help inspire that and set us up for success.
Question: is anyone a Ted Lasso fan? Are we like Ted Lasso fans here?
Yeah.
Okay. We're like millennial generation. I think I was like sobbing. One of the most powerful moments of that show is when his mom comes to visit. And I think like Jason Sudeikis basically voiced what like everyone in our generation feels. He was like, please don't think I'm ungrateful. I love you so much. I'm so grateful that you tried as hard as you did. And I'm not going to curse, but he's like, but F you for never doing the work. And I'm like, this is what I wanted to say for like 30 years. And I think, I've been in therapy for 15 years. I either have a therapist or a coach. It is a journey, and I'm on it all day, every day. It is exhausting, and it's the only way we break cycles. It's the only way we empower our children. It's the only way we shift things from generation to generation. And so I just shared that because it was this moment in Ted Lasso where I'm like, he just said what like every person our age wishes they could say to their parents. Do the work.
Do the work.
Yeah, I heard somewhere said like, if you don't work on yourself, it gets passed down to your kids, right? So work on yourself and work on that. And also another saying is, that doesn't work is do what I say, not as I do. Like, we got to do the work too, and be those examples in our kids' lives or in our environment so that people can see you're not hypocritical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
Well, and so I'm kind of coming off of that. It's like we read in your bio that you took a career break. And I think that's something so interesting too, is to model to your children and to your daughter that like careers are not linear. You can you can choose to do one thing, you can do this. And like you're leading her by example of being like, I can come in and I can come out and, it's going to be okay. Can you talk about your career break and, what you learned, what you took away from that, and then how you transitioned back into the workforce?
Yeah, that was an exciting part of my life where my husband and I decided whenever we had kids, I was going to leave the workforce so that I could be the primary influence in our kids' lives, right? And so amazing opportunity. But then when my daughter was 3 or 4, I remember having that thought, I think I want to return to work. But then mom guilt sets in of, you don't love your kids? Aren't you glad that you get an opportunity to stay at home? So many people want to be in your shoes, like all of this mom guilt. So I didn't really tell anyone of my thought except my husband. And I said to him one day, I think I want to go back to work. And he just encouraged me to think about, why do I want to go back to work? What do I want to do? And whatever I decide, do it for me and don't do it for anyone else. And I use that as freedom to not be in a rush to make a decision. And 2 years later, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to get back into the workforce for real. And I started telling people, like my best friend and another friend, and everyone's support just meant so much to me, where I felt that courage to take another step, right? I had to know here, I can still keep going because I'm worthy of, any company would be lucky to have me, is what they told me. They helped me review my resume. They helped me interview prep. But the people surrounding me, just, I can't thank them enough. And then I had a career coach where she helped me revamp my resume to where I can speak about my skills and experiences, even during my break, to translate to skills that for a job that I aspire to have. And then I found some resources like the Mom Project. I did not get hired through the Mom Project, but I remember during my journey to finding my perfect role or whatever have you, you all had this virtual conference with moms who went back to work, who shared their personal stories, and it gave me the confidence to not hide my career gap, because my thought process said, who would hire somebody with a 6-year career gap? And everyone in that conference said, anyone would be lucky to have you. And moms bring this and that to the table, right? We've managed a household, we've developed patience, we know how to organize, we know time, balancing our time, we know how to really organize our lives. And so I remember, just for those who want to go back into the workforce and are on their career break, there's a place for you too, because you've developed so many things during that break. And I'm so proud to tell people about said career break, because in the past, I would just try to hide it, almost as if I was ashamed because of whatever. I don't even know why I was ashamed, but I'm so proud of it, that I'm so proud that I had the opportunity. I'm so proud of the things that I developed during that time, appreciative of the time that I did have with my kids, but so proud that I'm at a company now that values me and I feel fulfilled, right? Like I took time to make sure that I'm in the right position, and I didn't just get a job just to get a job. So yeah.
We're so proud of you too.
Thanks.
Your story is incredible. And I think we hear from moms so much being like, I took a career break and I don't know how to get back. And I think you had some really tangible takeaways that I think is like your network. And I think other people ask, like, how do I rely on your network? But you said you like tapped in with friends. And I think we underestimate sometimes just by telling a friend like, hey, I think I might be ready to do something. And everyone's so eager to jump in and help you.
Yes. So that mom guilt that I put up was on myself. No one ever said those thoughts, right? And I'm so thankful for the community and support that I have. And then I had one thing to share, but then I forgot. But yeah, it was such a great, hashtag hire a mom. That's what it was.
Hashtag hire a mom.
Yeah.
We love that hashtag too. And yes, it's like, I think people underestimate the soft skills. I think kind of the soft skills that you take away from being a mom day in and day out, you bring to the table empathy, communication, teamwork, like the list goes on and on. And so I think being able to speak about those eloquently and knowing how to highlight those and really, while I wasn't in the paid workforce, I was, cultivating my skills like X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
And for anyone watching today who is on a career break or considering or ready to return to paid work, we have a lot of master classes that talk about how to kind of leverage those skills and talk about them. So I would highly encourage you to check out our YouTube under master classes and see the resources available there, or you can send me a LinkedIn message and I can send them to you, because they are really helpful in talking about concrete ways to kind of re-enter the workforce after a break. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm so inspired by that story. So I thank you so much for sharing. These are the best moments is when people get vulnerable and talk about these things, because I think we are not alone in our career journey or, our personal journey. And the more we talk about it, the more we normalize it.
Absolutely.
Okay, Sarah G., I wanted to talk to you about how you were able to build a career at Intuitive, because you've been there for what, 13 years?
Yeah, almost 14, if you can
Yeah,
believe it.
so you have built a career at Intuitive while also growing your family. And that definitely speaks to your tenure speaks to the organization and what it does for you. But, what was it about Intuitive that made that possible for you? And, how did Intuitive set you up for success, both professionally and personally?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just have to say, Intuitive really has some wonderful policies, and I think that allowed me to continue to grow my career um, and take time away. So, for example, as you know, we were deciding to start a family. I looked into what our benefits were around maternity leave, and I was able to take a month off before. I lived in California at the time. A month off before, and then 6 months after the birth of my son. And moms, I mean, you're not sleeping in those first 6 weeks. You're going to go back to work in 6 weeks, 12 weeks. Some people don't even have any maternity leave. Like, it breaks my heart hearing stories about that. I think that's one of the biggest challenges, which I know we'll talk about a little later, but that's definitely one of them is maternity leave. And so I was so fortunate to have a company that allowed me to take that time away, to have the time to figure out what on earth I'm doing, like the soft skills that you're talking about around patience, organization, growth. I mean, it is all related to
Yeah.
work. So, yeah. And I have to give hats off to Intuitive because the benefits around, I mean, like family planning, even, and adoption and maternity leave. The benefits just really are incredible. And I think that's what allowed me to take the break I needed, come back, have a second child, take that break, and that second child throws a whole new wrench into it. But I was able to have the time to figure out me, figure out the family, figure out how can I do this all, juggle it. It's not easy in the beginning. My kids are 2.5 and 5, so I still really feel in the thick of it. But finally coming out on the other side, and part of it is because we have such incredible benefits, incredible leadership that allows that flexibility. Also, having a team of women, like your kid gets sick, that you're going to be online if you can, and sometimes you can't be. And so just having that flexibility, which I know I'm in a very fortunate place. And I know not everybody has that at all, but that is what has allowed me to continue to grow at Intuitive and stay.
Well, and talk about retention. I mean, they've empowered you to be able to do these things, and then they've kept you for 13 years. And that speaks to the power of their benefits, the power of their leadership, and how they've cultivated you as an employee. So, I mean, we have data that says that, people are looking for those kind of family benefits to keep them staying there for, the long haul. And when companies show up, people stay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm. Well, and I think, what does it mean to kind of empower women in organizations? Sarah K, I'd love to hear from you, kind of from your career coach mindset. And then Soi and Sarah, we'll get to you too about how, JLL and Intuitive really empower from within.
Yeah, this is such a perfect segue from Sarah G's point. So I think, and I think the word empowerment gets thrown around a lot, right? Like we talk about it, but we're like, what does that actually mean? It feels really nebulous. When I think about empowerment, I think of it as kind of 3 steps that all build on each other. So the one, are you giving people the skills and the knowledge that they need to succeed, right? So are you investing in their coaching? Are you investing in their leadership development and training, in actually building their skill set? But that's only the first part. And I was like, I guess it's a triangle, but I don't think that's the right shape. Whatever shape this is going to take, maybe Jenga. The second is resources. Are you actually investing resources, right? The reason we are seeing the amount of burnout that we are is because people are simultaneously expected to manage teams of 20 and still be stuck in the weeds. there's not enough resources to say, like, okay, well, now I'm doing the job. And as we've seen, a lot of the women I coach are in tech. And when they're going through layoff after layoff, their job goes from 2 people to 3 people to 6 people in a span of a few weeks. And you want to talk about like recipe for burnout. So it's like, are we giving them the resources to succeed? And then last, which I think is probably where we culturally, like collectively drop the ball the most, is do they have an opportunity to actually channel that empowerment, right? Like, are there jobs to be applying for? Are there enough mom-friendly like employers who are saying we are creating policies within our company? Sarah, to your point, the reason you've been able to build your career within, your organization is the structures are in place for you to not only feel empowered, but actually then use those skills and continue growing up. And where we drop the ball as a culture is we're like, we'll give people all the training. And then they're like, oh, but actually there's no jobs for you to apply for because we don't have the policies in place to support family-friendly work cultures. And that's where we have a lot of work to do.
I'm like, is that a Venn diagram?
I'm like, what shape do we?
Yes, it's like those are the 3 main problems. And then how do we solve for those? Yeah, that was a really easy, like simple way to break that down because it's like, yes, yes, yes.
And you're like, I get all of those, but like, why are these 2 missing?
Exactly. Soi, as a DE&I leader, talk to us about what that means for women in your organization and beyond about, making sure that we have the resources and what we need to feel empowered and empower women ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. At JLL, like we have diversity, equity, inclusion embedded in all parts of our business, right? So the recruiting, the retention, including professional development. And so at JLL, we have an aspiration to have 40% female representation at senior level roles by 2025. That doesn't happen by chance. So they're very intentional about providing leadership opportunities for women, but with the understanding that there is a place for them. We need them in our senior roles. And so that's one way where JLL is for sure. We have an aspiration and we're working together as a firm to have the senior level roles look like the world that we live in today, right? Yep. And so we know that there's a gender balance, a gender gap there. And so we're working on making sure we're decreasing that gap by having this aspiration.
I love it. I think women in leadership is so important. And the more we can advocate and empower women to get into those roles, the more we'll have, family-friendly workplaces. It's just all a cycle. Sarah G, talk to us a bit about Intuitive and, what does it mean for Intuitive to empower women?
Yeah, absolutely. So we recently restructured our women's groups. We went from 5 down to 1 consolidated group. So Women's Intuitive Network. I recently took a leadership role there, and I'm excited to help expand what that looks like. But by bringing everybody together, able to really cross-functionally across our entire organization and globally bring the women together. So with the ERGs, we have several ERGs within Intuitive, and they're very active. I would say Intuitive does a really incredible job of just building the structures so that we can have very good employee representation. But restructuring WIN into 1 group from the 5 just really allows us all to be working together as women in Intuitive. So I'm just excited about what we are looking to do there. And then just as far as the benefits, I talked to what we have in place as far as benefits. The talent development team has just created incredible resources for our employees across the board. So they have been building that up. There's different networks specifically for VP Plus and networking that they set up. So they bring the women together in very concerted effort throughout our organization.
That's important too, to kind of make sure that women are talking and, working as a collective. And ERGs are so important. So it's exciting to hear that you've all melded into one, and like the collective power of this one ERG.
Yeah.
Well, kind of on that note is, what do you think, Sarah G, I'll start with you, but what do you think what's the biggest issue that women are facing in the workplace today?
Yeah.
And what can we do to kind of combat that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be totally honest, childcare, maternity leave, trying to do it all. I think when there are childcare issues, the women take on a lot of that. I mean, who does daycare or school call first? I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's the mom, right? And so that does have an impact on a woman's career. If you're taking all of the sick days, if you're out. And so, I mean, affordable childcare, maternity leaves that are equitable for throughout the US, right? Not just at these one-off companies that are incredible and supporting their women. It's got to be across the board. And then we don't have to do it all. Like, I feel like I'm always trying to do it all. And I'm like, either I'm momming really good, or I'm like, work is killing it, or like the house is clean. But I'm not doing all 3 of those at the same time. And so yeah, I would say those are the major issues.
Yeah, well, I was thinking there was a recent article on Bloomberg that care.com did a study about what benefits, US workers are looking at, and childcare benefits are the most pressing issue this year. We just need some childcare benefits. I think, and then we're like, we're telling you what we want. We're telling you that's what we need. But you also just addressed 3, it was another little triangle, but the 3 things: we cannot do it all. We can't do it all in our jobs. We can't do it all at home, and we can't do it all, with our house. And while you were saying that, I was thinking about what ones I'm doing great at right now. So, Soi, what about you? What do you think some of the issues are, and how can we combat them?
I'll make this comment and then I'll answer. But yesterday, I definitely made a comment to my manager. I said, I'm killing it at home. I just made dinner and it's not even, or I had dinner ready in a crock pot and it's not even 5 o'clock. And so I understand that thought process. Like, man, I'm really doing it well here, but I don't know about the laundry's not even done. So I think one of the biggest issues is going back into that confidence where I think we've all heard men will throw in for whatever jobs, and then women will check, like, make sure, do we check all the requirements?
Yes.
And really, it's one of those, hey, you're good enough, shoot your shot, because a man will. And I think to combat that is really through having a mentor or sponsor or coach or career coach, so that you're able to bounce these off of someone else, because we're our own worst critics. And so if we're able to have someone to talk to, they'll encourage us to go for it. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say, you don't, right? Everyone who's been supportive in my corner, like, hey, you got it. It's me who tells myself don't do it. So you have to have a community around you or someone in your corner who's going to really help you just take that next step.
Your community. I'm like, who are your friends?
Yeah.
Can we all be friends with them?
Yes.
You got it. Like, we all need that pep talk. But I also think is we don't share, sometimes I think about myself, like, I don't tell my friends everything that's going on because I don't want to be a burden, or I don't want to. But then I think about it on the flip side, when they tell me, I'm like, what can I do to help? We all want to help. I think sometimes it's just the stigma around asking for that help makes it really difficult. And so it's like, you have a community, you just got to lean on them. But it's what we tell, what's the lie we tell in our head. It's not reality.
Yeah, for sure. We're not meant to do life alone.
No, we are not meant to do life alone. Okay, Sarah K, what about you? Issues women are facing and how can we combat them? I love all of these answers. I'm feeling so inspired.
I literally just took notes because I'm like, oh, there's so many threads. I want
to like takeaway.
Okay, so we've already touched on this, but just to kind of get clear, I think, and I see this in I see this in the clients, whether it's the women I'm working at who are in the C-suite executive level, all the way down to the moms of the teens that I'm working for, to the vast majority of my friends who are millennials with kids under the age of 8, who are literally in survival mode all day, every day. And like, that's like, I'm the only way to describe it. Like complete disaster. Like, you know, it's like whack-a-mole, right? And I think, I mean, I'm going to put everything under the umbrella of burnout, right? So collectively as a culture in America, we are struggling so much with this across the gender spectrum, right? So I think I saw a stat the other day, and I think it was the CDC, but do not quote me on that. But basically surveying adults in America, men and women, and across the gender spectrum, 68% of US adults feel that they need more emotional support in their life. Right? 70% of us are not doing okay. Right? And we don't want to talk about that at work because we get into work and it's like, I have things to do. And then we go to the birthday party and we don't want to be burdened. And this, like, you're like, how does this mom have the nicest cake? Where did I screw up? Like, yeah, and it's like 1,000 balls in the air. And so we've got the burnout just in terms of what's happening, like American culture and workforces. And thank goodness there are people like Brene Brown who are leading the charge on like, how do we actually change company culture to just like address human, the human in all of us. Mm-hmm. And then we've got what I would call like mom burnout, which is the gross gender disparity in household labor and emotional labor. And what's called, I don't know if y'all have heard it termed this way, but like the invisible load, the invisible backpack that moms wear, that you are like suddenly at birth, you're like, oh, I guess I wear this thing now. And it's like doctor's visits, appointments, pickups, drop-offs, who's doing the cupcakes, how am I going to make Christmas magical? Did we buy the ham for Easter? I mean, it is like the never ending list that just like lives in the back of our head that nobody else sees. It's called the invisible load. And I like to tell moms this all the time, right? When you are, think of like you've got a phone and you have like 1,000 apps open on the phone. What does it do? I think it drains the battery. Mom brain is a real thing. And it's because we have thousands of apps open all day, every day. We are burning the candle at both ends. And this is where, I think, again, there is so much that needs to happen, like at a policy level and like both government and also corporate and like organizations. I mean, like at a structural level, and Sarah and Soi, like that's what your companies are doing, is like, how do we make policies that are actually more that positively impact women and families? But on the flip side of that, nothing ever changes in culture without the bottoms up approach as well. Like the movers and shakers who are saying, this doesn't work for me. I don't like this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to participate in this anymore. And these are really, really, really hard conversations we have to be having at home. It is the number one source of conflict in my marriage. And I have a beautiful, loving, amazing husband, but the gender disparity and the emotional labor I do to run this house, I'm like, why is it like, how is it suddenly my job to remember your mom's birthday? Like, when did that happen? Right?
When started dating.
I don't understand. And so these are really hard conversations. And I do want to come back to the power in community and the power in collective, because of this facade that so many of us feel like I have to be perfect. I have to be a perfect mom and this badass CEO and blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of shame in saying like, I am drowning right now, or texting a girlfriend and saying, I'm about to lose my mind. Can you come watch the kids for an hour so I can take a bath? And we don't want to do that. Because there's this idea of like, oh, but then I'm failing as a mom. And so part of that is also on us to say, I can't do this alone. I am drowning. Do I need to talk to my husband? Do I need to call my mom? Do I need to call my neighbor, my aunt, whoever, to say, I can't do this right now? Because I don't know a single mom who isn't just like absolutely drowning in basically all, like you said, like the house, the home, and the work. And you're just like, one of these balls is going to drop.
And then ourselves. Like,
yes.
You didn't even list you, right?
Yes. Yes. And then the internal dialogue. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it's like, we somehow make it like, my kid doesn't like broccoli, therefore I'm a bad mom. Like, it's like, your kid just doesn't like broccoli. Like, right? But it's like, we make it.
We internalize all of this as like shame.
I am failing because my kid won't eat his vegetables. Like, we got to stop that dialogue as well. Mm-hmm. And then you go on Instagram and you're like, I'm a terrible mom. So it's like, get off the apps. Just
get off the internet.
Get off Pinterest, please, for the love of God.
No, first of all, the comments are blowing up. Everyone was like, I want to take the backpack off. Like, and someone said, this is therapy. And I'm literally sitting here nodding my head, like agreeing. I'm like, yes. All of the stuff you're saying, that really resonated. And I know it resonated with our community. So thank you, Sarah. That was okay. And we were talking and I was so invested in the conversation. We have 15 minutes left. So just to let everybody know, we do have time for a Q&A. So add any questions you have into the comments, and then we will end on this question before we launch into the Q&A. What is the best advice you've been given as a woman? I don't want to put anyone on the spot. So if someone wants to go first, they can go first. Otherwise, I'll start with Sarah. G.
All right. Stop apologizing. It's apologize when you should apologize, but if you're late, thank you for being flexible. Stop apologizing for everything. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to really relay that to my kids. I notice that my son says, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, you don't need to be sorry. That's not I'm sorry. Now you hit your sister. Please go say sorry. But stop apologizing.
Yeah. Soi, how about you?
Yeah, something I took from John Maxwell is sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. So not lose, but learn. And I used to be so scared of failing, so I don't try anything or get out of my comfort zone. And that's something we're teaching our kids is, hey, we just got to go for it. And then we'll just learn. How do we get better? I don't know, my husband's on the call, but he'll always ask, how do you get better? And they'll always say practice. We practice, and that's how we get better. And really that's it as adults, right? Sometimes you might not get something right, but you learn from it, you adjust, and you move on. And that's okay as moms. As humans, we're not perfect. So as moms, we're not perfect.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. It's practice. What'd you say? It's practice or practicing?
Yeah. How do we get better? We practice.
Mm-hmm. I'm writing all of these down. Sarah K., what about you?
Okay, I'm not muted. I was going to go with the apologize one. So Sarah G, I'm really glad you went first. So the second thing that came to mind is, I have no idea who said it. It's a really famous quote, and I'm so sorry that I'm not attributing this to the brilliant woman that said it, but basically, speak up even if your voice shakes. And again, I am a mover and a shaker. I believe in kind of the collective pushing for change. Nothing changes at home, at church, in your community, in your company, unless you actually speak up for yourself. You let people know what you want, what you need. And even if the delivery is crap, and even if you're like, hey, I sound like I'm about to have, I'm like, my voice is a little shaky and I'm having a panic attack. You get it out, right? There is so much power in that and relief in that. And I think, it doesn't matter the delivery, but using your voice is what matters.
I just want to give everybody a hug. This has been the best conversation. And then someone just commented it, and now I will put my cape on and go pick up my kids and continue to listen. And that's what moms do. We multitask and we figure it out. So thank you for joining us. I think that was Michelle that said that. I hope you're still listening and you have your cape on. Thank you all for that advice. Those are such amazing takeaways. And especially as we go into International Women's Day tomorrow and we think about, how we can empower women, it's like all of these things collectively can help us help us be better, help us be better moms, help us be better parents, and help us be better in the workforce. Okay, well, with that, we're going to launch into the Q&A. So let's see some questions. Okay. Susan asks, where do you recommend finding a solid mentor? Do any of you have some suggestions?
I'll jump in if yeah, so I think because this comes up a lot in career coaching. So there's so much power in mentorship, right? It's different than a coach in that they actually tell you about like their own background and their experience. It's really can be a super powerful connection where mentorship tends to get really I don't want to say kind of like loses its steam is when it's not formalized and it just becomes this kind of like awkward, uncomfortable, informal relationship that like neither party really knows what to do with. So I would say find an organization that's doing that. So for example, here in Austin, Texas, I'm a mentor for the Young Women's Alliance. It means like I am paired with somebody. We have a monthly meeting. I send her resources and it is like there's a container for it and it's like this is for 6 months. So that's an example. So whether through an organization as a member, you probably have to pay some dues, but I would say probably worth it. And then I will just like personal shout out. The company that I do executive coaching for is called Sarisa, and that's actually a formalized mentorship platform. So I will also throw that out there. I do coaching, and then they get paired with a mentor depending on their industry and function and all of that. So I would spend just some time on Google, but going through an organization, a company where there's a container for it, because otherwise just like asking someone to be your mentor can usually fall a bit flat, but largely just because it doesn't have like terms and agreements that go with it.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree.
Sarah,
and then if you are working, find someone in the company that maybe you admire and know their story a little bit and just connect. And you might have to go through a few people to find the right mentor, and that's okay. I think during college, I thought, oh, it's just as simple as choosing someone. And I remember asking someone, will you be my mentor? And we never met. She said yes, but we never met. So what Sarah said, but at a company, I just know there are people who are willing to, there might be a mentorship program that you can be a part of that is formalized. And I know we have that at JLL. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, just to add in, I agree. I think the structure is really critical when you have a mentor. What are you going to be talking about? Make sure that you have like goals. And I love the terms and conditions, what you said, Sarah. And work with your manager. Have them help you pair with somebody else, another leader within the organization. I definitely recommend somebody not within your immediate org so that you can have a little bit more of open dialogue. But also, hopefully that person can be a bit of your advocate within your company. So if you do go with somebody internal, and yeah, lots of companies have really great mentorship programs. So there is more formal options at companies as well.
Thank you all for such insightful answers. I think finding a mentor is hard at any level of your career. So I also think there's no like perfect way to crack this code. I think at any stage of your career, whether you're just starting out or you're in leadership, you're still like, how do we formalize this relationship? How do we, so I think it's intimidating no matter what you're doing. So know that there are resources out there to help you. And we concluded everybody's LinkedIn in here. So feel free to connect and, ask more questions, and you can send Sarah K a message about, because I just want to make sure everyone gets it in the comments. So if you have questions about what Sarah, her company, send her a DM. I'm sure she'll be happy to answer. I just threw you out there. Sorry, Sarah. Okay. Emma asks, are there any social media accounts you'd recommend for women empowerment? Working to fill my feed with this type of content.
Can I give a shout out to the female lead? I follow on Instagram. That's probably my favorite one. The quotes, the stories really resonate with me.
That's a good one. I wrote that down just in case I'm not following.
Okay, mine is, it's not like a formal company or anything, but it's a person, and she's probably the most positive person I've ever met. Well, I've never met her. Tabitha Brown. And I love Tabitha Brown. She always puts out I don't know if she's on LinkedIn, but I know she's on Instagram and I follow her, but she's always putting these great, impactful, empowering stories to like motivate you. So Tabitha Brown, she is from North Carolina, was an inspiring actress, moved to LA, but really they didn't like her accent and she tried to change herself. But through the pandemic, she is vegan. She made this video that went viral and now she's like this vegan sensation, but she's so positive and I love listening to her. And she goes by like Auntie Tab. So she's funny, she's positive, and she fills my spirit up.
Oh, I love it. Okay, I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to make sure I'm following her too. Sarah, do you have any?
Yes. So
Okay,
I just wrote down a few. Mine tend to be more, I would say, probably like in the not only the coaching space, but also a lot more on like kind of like the policy and yeah, like feminist leadership space. So I would say female lead is incredible. Female quotient is also very good.
so much uplifting content all the time.
Yeah, I'm like, just can I repeat
all the time? They're cranking it out constantly. So shout out to their social people because you guys work real hard.
Okay. And I do want to say something about comparison. One thing to remember is that like those people have social media teams. Like I have to remember, like I'm just a little solopreneur and I'm only doing a couple posts a week and I'm not, because I see that and I'm like, this is brilliant content. Like I am never going to have the capacity to crank that out. Okay. Female lead, female quotient. Cara Lowenthal. She is one of my favorite feminist coaches. She has the feminist fixed mindset. She does a ton around perfectionism, body image. She's incredible. Any Peloton people out there, Robin Arson. She is just talk about motherhood, badass career lady. She's super open about the fact that she has nannies and she has help, right? Like you also, again, comparison trap, need to remember she has an enormous amount of support going into the work that she's doing, but talk about like motivation, get you out of bed, like kick your butt. And then one that I just love because I think it's really just brilliant and also super funny is Feminist Stabulous. Liz Plank, who's the gender advisor, gender reporter for Vox. And she's actually speaking at South by on Sunday. She's on a panel talking about toxic masculinity, which is like her thing now. So her Instagram feed is also super fascinating.
Okay, well, maybe I'll have to put these all in the comments. I feel like I'm going to tag everybody in these comments because I'm like, yeah, I gotta remember all this. And okay, so we are like almost at time. This hour completely flew by, but we have one more question that I think is really special and a kind of a fun one to end on. Okay, Tina asks, how do you take time to celebrate you?
That's a good question. I know Tina. Hi, Tina. So Tina is actually my manager. And I'll tell you, whenever you asked about, just having someone support you and in your corner, she's one of the people in my corner. And she's always telling me to take time to myself. And one of the things I do is I get my nails done regularly and I enjoy it. Every 3 weeks, I do something for me, and it's when my kids are at school, and so I enjoy that. And then I outsource things so that I don't have to do it. So I do have someone come clean the house every other week, but it gives me it allows me to be me and just relax. So getting nails done and getting my house clean.
Those are two great things.
I love that. This year, I have been trying to like shift over to taking care of me. So what I'm doing is I joined a tennis team. I have never played tennis before. And so I'm on I have tennis tonight. And so just getting out of my comfort zone. My husband encouraged me. He does all of dinner, bath time. So Thursday nights I get 2 hours and I go play tennis and it's for me. So I'm really excited. And then I started doing puzzles. So at night, puzzles and reading books. And I'm just really trying to get back into healthy and growth. And I've just put all of that on autopilot for the past 5 years since I think my son
Well,
is.
you've been in the thick. You've been, you know what I mean? You've been doing a lot.
Yeah. So that's I'm this year I'm trying to focus on me. And so that's what I'm doing.
Those are two amazing things too. Oh, Sarah, what about you?
Yeah, very similarly, I think I like for me, it means like the experience. Like I'm not a big gift person. So for me, it means like, am I doing something to, whether it's a massage or an experience or, do I go to like get a Reiki session or like an energy, like anything that I feel like is going to take care of my mind, body, and spirit. That might be physical, that might be emotional, but those are moments where, for instance, after I launched my book, the like 3 days after, I blocked off. I was like, I'm getting a massage, I'm napping as much as I want, and that was my own way to celebrate. And that is also a luxury and a privilege that I know many, many women don't have. So.
Well, thank you all so much for joining today. I feel like we're all leaving here more inspired, more empowered, and kind of ready to like put that out into the world and how we can give back and help inspire others. For anyone who wants to get in touch with Soi, Sarah, and Sarah, their LinkedIns are in here. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope that you learned something valuable that you can take with you personally or in your career. We're so happy you're a part of this community, and we will see you next time. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.